Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Field of Giants titled Say. And if we switch over to here, this is a long track. This is about 6 minutes 52, so I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I've listened to Field of Giants before, but it'll be great to hear what they have to say. So I'm going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Instantly quite ominous, isn't it? So just before we go any further, the breakdown is we've got guitars, piano, okay, I think we've got as a sub layer or as a main, we've got bass and drums. We've got a hell of a 30-second intro as well. Glorious. Which is a really uncomfortable third chord, but it's so wonderful how it resolves.
What if I could stay here? Away from everyone, like a message in a bottle, afloat away from you. Hear my voice, taking my words. Feel my presence evermore. If I fall down, I'll make a sound before I turn to the ground.
I like the very subtle call responses that appears here on the end of those. The vocals are nice and present in the mix. They work well with the textures that are present in the rest of the arrangement. Happy with the mood of it. It's a kind of a contrast to the heavier stuff we had earlier, but I like the fact there's range there.
Time after time will tell. We're all dust in the end. But if you were here, would I feel alive? Or something similar, maybe. It's in my mind that you were here, or somewhere different, far away. Is it real for you? 'Cause it feels pretty real to me.
It's really smart. We had this theme played earlier on in the piece, and now we're bringing it back with the vocals as a simple, sensible development. But it's just so much more potent with that new layer on top, that storytelling.
the words come easily, and does it take away their meaning? 'Cause your actions speak for you. Loud and clear.
Because your actions speak for you loud and clear. So is it about discussing who we are as people, how we represent ourselves, how our actions have effects on others, and sort of the hypocrisy, essentially the hypocrisy that can be present at times with the differences between actions and spoken word?
Time will tell in the end. We're but dust after all. Maybe I'm not real, but I've come to terms with reality. Hear my words, or do they fall on deaf ears? If I go,
Messing with the time signature a little bit?
will I make a sound or go quietly into the crowd? Is it real for you? 'Cause it feels pretty real to me.
Modulations of those melodic passages there are nice. And the guitars.
If it's real for you, then all you do is say. All you do is say. All you do is say.
No, that's wonderful. Really impressed with that. Field of Giants are definitely on something really special here. I'm going to talk about it more in the conclusion. I kind of get what the song is about. I feel like it's one of those songs that's long enough, but that also the lyrics are present enough to where I think it's about, but I'm not quite sure. So there's going to be a little asterisk behind that. But yeah, we'll talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Field of Giants titled Say. Now, what do I think this track is about? I would guess or assume it's about words that you are saying to someone else or they're saying to you, their presence, their meaning, the importance of them, the weight behind them, trying to figure out whether what the person's actually saying is real, whether those emotions, that those things are just words or whether they have secondary meanings behind them, trying to reach to the other person, wondering if they're going to fall on deaf ears, that kind of thing. The way we communicate with each other on a fundamental basis, that's what I think we're trying to communicate or talk about with Field of Giants is song, yes, and I think that that's really cool. I think that it's something that a lot of people will be able to relate to. I think it's really smart subject matter, and I think that the way it was sung by the vocalist was absolutely superb. I think they were a solo take and the main leads in the middle for the most part there, and we did not need them to do anything else. I mean, granted, the track was so strong with the mixture of different like guitar, bass, drums. I'm pretty sure there were keys and the occasional synth bits at the start as an upper layer register, but the vocals were the main focal point throughout the entirety of this, well, most of this track. So again, they came at about the minute and a half mark, but the verses and choruses, you know, whatever we were trying to handle, whether it was more kind of soft and vulnerable in the verse parts, or we were going all the way up there and either belting or going up into our head voice and really kind of, and not like falsetto, but like up to the upper range. You know, it was wonderful. I think that we were very incredibly expressive. We were acutely aware of what the song needed at different points in regards to the general sort of sense of expression, and I think we were very authentic with how we communicated. It really sounded like we were feeling the things that we were saying, if that makes sense. It was very, very raw in some parts there, even with the really tight processing. I'm not, because the guy could clearly sing. I mean, just like you could tell there's a bit of compression on there to just kind of get it to a point where I was like, like there was nothing trying to fix the vocals. The guy could sing really well. But yeah, really solid performance on that front. The track itself at 6 minutes 52 was wonderful. We had a variety of different guitar riffs and bass lines and drum patterns and the occasional piano and synth parts as well. We had phenomenal amount of dynamic range. We went between higher and lower parts, varying in intensities. Because again, with a track like this, which is way outside of 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, with 2 minutes, usually if a song's less than 2 minutes, it's usually not got enough time to really, in my opinion, go into enough of the context in certain situations to be able to explain what the song's about, or give enough time with the instrumental part. Again, there's exceptions, but that's my typical rule of thumb. Over 4 minutes. If you've got the same theme that you're repeating a bit too often, you're starting to really need to adjust the way you position yourself at that point and do some really fancy stuff with the structuring and different bits of the song. But I think we nailed the aesthetic here. We had 2 to 3 main sections here. We introduced them earlier on there, and we grew into it. It wasn't like we were in a race to get to the heavy part. We took our time, and it was... So in some parts it was quite relaxing and chilled out, with still like quite technical intensity of some of the guitar parts, especially and everything like that, as well as the drums. Like the instrumental performances in general were very, very tight. But just the tones on the different instruments were wonderful. Like that, the way they were captured, and I think as well there was just overall great chemistry before going into the individual instruments. That was just really superb. I think these guys clearly they play in the same room. They know how to sort of like perform, and they managed to capture it in this track. The guitars are fantastic. I appreciate the picked parts there, going between different strings in the quiet sections there, the full-on power chords and distorted elements there, with some interesting octave chords as there for mid-range harmonies. There was a great sense of range with those. We were modulating picked patterns as well in the end of each sort of chorus one, which is kind of nice. And we also had this really horrifically awful chord there in a good way in like the third time through. Like in the second time of each chorus, it was just this one chord that was like, it was like a chromatic, I think, within the key signature or scale, and it just hit like an absolute truck, a dumpster truck every time. And it was such a feral sound, but it suited, because what they then did was they brought it into another major chord. They resolved that tension there. So even if you had that kind of ickiness there for a moment, that tension, that stress there, that caustic nature of things, you went into a more satisfying point and you looped the chorus again, and it was really well done. The loop was great, and we could, I think we communicated the moods we needed to with the guitar chords there, whilst also providing riffs and playing in general that did not overshadow the vocals. I don't think there were any other real solo sections aside from like a potential like they're like synth, like little synthy perky bits that were a midpoint, but then the vocals came in and really took over the show. The bass was nice and thick and full. I say that a lot. If you haven't, you can't really go wrong with a good bass tone. We had that in here. It was nice and sort of restrained and resolved in the low end there. We followed the root notes really well. There was occasional movement, I think, with what the guitar part was doing, but ultimately we were very loyal to kind of keeping a sense of pace with the progressions. And it was just really nice and tight with the drums. The drums being fantastic, we showed a really good fundamental understanding of the kit there. We did not hesitate from some more technical sections. Traditionally, I think we explored the kit quite well, whether it was the sort of simple patterns with the kick snares and stuff like that. We also had some really fantastic fills as well, which were dope. We knew to come down and acquire a bit there dynamically and then build ourselves up otherwise, and we transitioned really neatly between sections, and it was a really tight performance there. No worries at all. We really explored what we're capable of with the instruments, outside of like solo sections and stuff like that. I remember they're saying there was keys. It did sound like there was like a piano part as like a sub layer or something like that at some point. There was a perky little synth lead at another point in the higher layer, but I think that was mostly just a decorative kind of thing there. It's just kind of like a way to kind of get us over the line to that verse section, and then we were there and we were absolutely nailed it. We might have had more of it later on, but it was more subtle, I think, when the vocals came in. And the theme overall with those instruments together, with the style of vocals we had and the story that was told, I think of the chord progressions you were playing and the main riff there, it wasn't super complicated with the main themes of the track there. We were typically going for that kind of hard rock, alternate rock kind of middle-ish tone there, and it wasn't like... It was powerful. It wasn't overly ferocious. It wasn't trying to be edgy. It just had this temperament where it just wanted you to kind of nod your head and kind of get down to it, but in a way which is still really musically salient and just it just had a great sort of like pulse to it, and it was beautiful when those major harmonies came in. There were parallel majors or minors occasionally throughout this track, and yeah, just really satisfying. The overall mood was kind of like the gross chord that I mentioned was like, oh, things have gone terribly wrong. We haven't communicated well. But then, like when it went up, it was like there was a hope that we could continue to try again and make it better. And I think that that's a beautiful thing if that is the intended case. If not, then feel free to use that in future if that works. But like you know, if you're trying to describe the song to someone, I mean. But the studio recording, mixing, mastering was tight. No complaints whatsoever in regards to how the vocals were presented or the guitars, bass, drums, or any of the key or synth parts. I think they were wonderfully articulated there. The leveling was really tight. Things were nicely positioned in the stereo field there. It surrounded you in the headphones there, regardless of where we were at. You know, you felt like you were inside the song. Things were niched nicely within the frequency spectrum. There were no weird resonant frequencies there. Everything had its own place to shine. There was dynamic range. Things were not the same loudness all the time, which was fantastic, but it was still nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. I mean, effectively, this is my review of this track from an act named Field of Giants, titled Say, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show us some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.